again. You better have a heart of steel. You look around, what's to come? You're gonna fight here till the end. You push too hard, now I'll make it real. Come on! We're gonna run you down, and we're gonna throw you out, and we're gonna run this town tonight, and we're gonna lay it down, better not come around, and we're gonna run this town tonight, tonight, tonight. We're gonna run this town tonight. Yeah. Come on. We're gonna run you down, and we're gonna throw you out, and we're gonna run this town tonight. We're gonna run this town, and we're gonna lay it down, better not come around, and we're gonna run this town tonight, tonight, tonight. We're gonna run this town tonight, tonight, tonight. Come on, we're gonna run this town tonight. Yeah, so don't come around. I'm taking my pain away, nothing else more to say. Everything that I have, I'll give. First, you gotta pick a side. Now you got a team and you're rolling with the pride. Wanna play the game, make it to the end. I wanna bring it back again. I feel it inside, I'm reaching my stride, I'm standing my ground, I won't give in. I'm moving ahead, I'm back from the dead, I'm ready to fight again. Raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof, I'm raising the roof. All the mistakes I made, now I can change my fate. No one can take this heart away. First, you gotta pick a side. Now you got a team and you're rolling with the pride. Wanna play the game and make it to the end. I wanna bring it back again. I feel it inside, I'm reaching my stride, I'm standing my ground, I won't give in. I'm moving ahead, I'm back from the dead, I'm ready to fight again. Raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof, I'm raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof, I'm raising the roof. Find another way to fight another day. Find another way. Find another way to fight another day. Find another way to fight another day. Find another way. Find another way to fight another day. I feel it inside, I'm reaching my stride, I'm standing my ground, I won't give in. I'm moving ahead, I'm back from the dead, I'm ready to fight again. Raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof, I'm raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof, I'm raising the roof. Yeah. I'm ready to play now. Put me in the game now. I came here to prove it. I'm ready to do it. I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now. I'm like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real, I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made up. Get in the game, your moment of fame, show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up, it's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down, it's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise, don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We're reaching the top, we're reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We're reaching the top, we're reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Turning the track up, I'm never gon' back down. Hand over my heart, I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop.
I'd wreck my grandma to win a championship for sure.
Same now, Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way, you wasn't invited. Say you come to play, I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me, then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way, yeah, out of the way.
Live tonight from Fontana, California, we get set to say let's go racing for the second race of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. As always, we're happy to have you with us for the iRacing pre-race show. We'll get you primed for tonight's action in just a few moments, but before we look forward to tonight, we've got to look back to get you caught up on how we got here. Let's take a look back to 2 weeks ago and the season opener from Daytona, a race that all culminated with an unforgettable final lap. The start of a new decade and a new era, where from the virtual Daytona International Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the 2020 season opener of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. As we say, let's go racing from Daytona. Round one of the Coke Series era is green. So much contact, Overland leaning on him. He was right up against the fence, and I think the saving grace is that when that 3-car came by, a very smart move by the 46 machine of Mullis to back off and give Reynolds an escape route. Logan Clampett may have an option to hit the eject button. He is second on line on the outside. Here we come for the final time at turn 4. Leahy holds the bottom. Ottinger's going to get a shove. They're going to wreck behind in a photo finish, and it's good enough on the inside. Keegan Leahy, by 4/1000ths of a second, wins the season opener at Daytona. And we'll relive all of the action on the final lap here. You're going to see the wreck coming from behind, but Ottinger had a whale of a push from Logan Clampett. You can see 4-5 wide crashing. In fact, most of the wreck, it actually happens beyond the start-finish line. So I think most drivers are going to be okay with where they finished, but it is up front, those first 5 cars that were able to stay together.
Yeah, Bobby Bryant went to the inside, almost anticipating something was going to happen here by the looks of it. And actually, that's the 47 car going to the inside line. But you mentioned it, Evan. They're 4 or 5 wide. They're kind of sliding across the line. And after that, all heck breaks loose. Graham Bolin goes for a wild ride in the 18 car, up and over, and everybody else sliding afterwards. But for the most part, I don't want to call them pinballs, but that's pretty much what they were coming across the line. Look at all those cars going across, but they made it 100 laps.
And it'll be a different kind of 100 laps on deck tonight, as live from the virtual Auto Club Speedway, we take a look at our eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver standings headed into this evening. Also going to welcome Tim Terry, Randy Cheneth into our coverage, and Tim won race meeting, therefore, that the results from last week are the points coming into this evening. Keegan Leahy's got that little bit of an extra bump, that 5-point advantage, courtesy of a race win, so he'll lead the points headed into this evening. But of course, a lot of drivers say the real season doesn't start till week 2, so it's good to get out of Daytona with some points, but it is not the end-all, be-all, certainly.
You can't win a championship by doing well in race number 1 at Daytona, but Evan, you saw that graphic. Familiar names near the front of this field, and they're going to have that momentum heading into Auto Club Speedway.
It'll be fun to see what's in store for tonight. And speaking of this race and a thrilling result, we saw this driver take home the checkered flag 1 year ago. It is the driver of the number 9 Big Green Egg Ford Mustang for Jim Beaver Esports. We are caught up with Eric J. Smith right now. Eric, thanks for giving us some time here pre-race to chat with us. And I think the first thing that everybody sees in the background is, well, just tell us a little bit about that setup behind you, who's there with you, and kind of how all that came together.
Yeah, so behind me I have fellow NASCAR Coca-Cola Series drivers Santiago Tires and Michael Grillia. So it's kind of funny how this all came to be. Michael and I met probably our sophomore year and ended up moving in together because we knew each other on iRacing. So this was before we were even pros. And we've been friends ever since. And Santiago actually moved here to go to school at UNCC as well. And Michael knew Santiago through previous teams and racing with him on the iRacing service. So it kind of just all fell together because we all just get along really well, and we all just happened to make it back into the eNASCAR Coke Series this year. So it's pretty neat. It's certainly unique.
We wanted to talk to you, obviously, to showcase that, because when we saw the setup right off at the top of the year, we thought it was cool. But tonight, also a good time to talk with you, because you got your first career win in this race last season. Another one of the thrilling photo finishes from 2019. Just tell us a bit about what went into that race, and what are the chances maybe you can go for the repeat tonight?
Yeah, so last year, the race was actually, it was fairly green all the way up until about halfway.
Oh, was there?
And I knew right away after the first yellow that we had a fast race car.
Oh my goodness.
We had a fast race car because I was just picking drivers off one by one through the field.
Yeah.
Got up near the front and had really good track position, didn't make any mistakes. And while we were on a different tire model, I think this tire model is going to be a little bit different. I still think you're going to see a lot of the same racing, which I obviously am pretty good at since that win last year at Auto Club. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to my first race at a non-super speedway with Slip Angle Motorsports, ERG, helping us out on the setups. And I also want to thank Jim Beaver Esports and Big Green Egg for hopping on and giving me a shot to get another win. And hopefully this time for them rather than as an independent.
There you go. It is second race of the year. We appreciate the time. Eric Smith looks to repeat from 2019, and Tim, to bring you back into the conversation. This is a track that we have seen on the calendar for the last couple of races, last seasons, I should say, since 2014. It's been a staple on the campaign.
Yeah, the last 6 seasons it's been here, and Eric hit the nail on the head. We're going to talk about trends and the Tim facts to start off. This race has an average of 5 cautions. Eric mentioned a lot of those cautions tend to happen late in the race. The cleanest race was 2 years ago, the last 125-lap race that we had here with 2 cautions. We've seen some drivers really excel at this racetrack. Ryan Luza is the only repeat winner here in the last 6 races. Average finish is 1.6, 2 wins, and a third-place finish. That worst finish came last year. And we have 4 different winners represented in this race. Ryan Luza's won 2, as we mentioned. Eric Smith, we just talked about. Ray Alfala and Nick Ottinger have also won here. The only former winner not in this field tonight is Kenny Humpy, former champion of this series. So a couple of trends and a couple of faces you really need to watch here tonight.
And there's one thing that we thought about doing last week at Daytona, but we really didn't have the guts to do it for the first week out, as we bring Randy now into the conversation. Randy, and that is, over the course of the year, we want to pick as our booth team who we think is going to go to victory lane every single season. Essentially, we'll pick a car pre-race. Whatever points that driver gets over the race will get assigned to us, and at the end of the year, we'll see how far you two are behind me in our driver picks for the season. So since we didn't have the guts to do it in Daytona, we kicked the season off, I guess, what a lot of drivers consider the real start to the points race here in round number 2. We'll let you have the honor of going first. Who do you think is going to end up in eNASCAR victory lane tonight?
Well, you say you'll be behind us, Evan, but we'll have to wait and see here. But my pick for this one, I'm going to take the number 83 of Bobby Zelensky. He's been very, very trending upward, I think, on these oval races. Pole sitter at Daytona, and he qualified well here today. I think the number 83 VRS Camaro is going to be great.
That's a safe bet. We talked last week about some of the different teams, and Bobby Zelensky, the VRS duo, Tim, was certainly one that we mentioned is a team to look for, but we just got through your Tim facts. You're the statistician and the expert. Who do you see ending in victory lane?
If I wanted to go with the low-hanging fruit, I'd go with Ryan Luza, but I want to go off the table a little bit, and I'm going to go with another VRS car. Going to go with Ray Alfala. 6 races here. His average finish is 4.2. He's got a win here. His worst finish is 7th, though. He's starting deep in the field. He's got some work to do, but I'm comfortable with Ray Alfala tonight.
So it's funny that you shoot down to my pick before I can get it, and you didn't know it ahead of time, but I'm going to go with Ryan Luza to win tonight. And let me say, it is not because you said that this is the racetrack that has his best average finish. It's because he had his worst ever finish here last year. Of course, we talked about how much these cars changed with that 2019 package that carries over to this season. He finished 3rd in this race, which just happened to be his worst, but he also finished 8th at Michigan, so he had consistency across the board with the 2-mile D-shaped ovals. So I do think that Ryan Luza is going to be the driver that heads to victory lane this evening. And I'm going to be honest, Randy, looking across all 3 of our picks, any one of those combination of drivers could certainly end up being our top 3.
Yeah, Luza, I would definitely say the 3 is probably the clear favorite, but I'd say of any of those 3 cars, if we see one of them in victory lane, I don't think anyone would be surprised. But at the end of the day, I think we all kind of want to see what we saw last year, don't we? We'd love to see a big upset winner come out again. It was a great talking point to get the season started last year with the second round with Eric picking up that big one.
It was an absolute thriller finish here in Fontana as Eric Smith captured his first and so far only career win in this series. That was one of 4 first-time winners we saw last season. So, are we going to see another first-time winner tonight, or as some of the veterans that we listed, can they take home the checkered flag? We'll find out next as we say let's go racing for round 2 of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series.
Jonah Hill going to flake out on Martin Scorsese? The world wants to know.
Come on, Jonah, come on.
Finally! I apologize.
takes on the sights and sounds of sunny Southern California, where tonight for the virtual Auto Club Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round number 2 of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. As always, we're happy that you're along for the virtual ride with us on the iRacing Sports Network. As always, Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry, Randy Janet upstairs with you as we get set for round 2 of 20 in the 11th season of officially sanctioned eNASCAR iRacing competition. We just took a look back at the season opener at Daytona, Tim. There during our iRacing pre-race show, we mentioned, yes, only one race has happened. The points are those results. Tonight could really be considered the start of the season. So it'll be really interesting to see how those new driver team combinations can figure it out as we go racing on the 2-mile D-shaped oval, Randy.
Yeah, and the weather these guys are going to have to work with is fantastic. 83-degree track temp and 65 degrees Fahrenheit here at Fontana. It's been like this, I can tell you, living down in San Diego. The weather's been absolutely beautiful the last month or so. A little bit of rain, but I think this part of the country definitely needs it. And a westwardly wind of only about 9 to 10 miles an hour, just about strong enough it might be an issue, especially in the early goings when these tires are fresh and these guys are 3 or 4 wide, Evan. But besides that, this is absolutely gorgeous track temps and conditions for these guys.
And it'll just aesthetically be a different look as well, because last year, if you remember that thoroughly to finish, we ended under the lights. So tonight, in that sunny conditions for an afternoon race, as we'll see how this thing plays out for a scheduled 100 laps. Let's take a look, though, that qualified has gone to a close trackside at our starting grid for tonight, and it will be Keegan Leahy with a very good opportunity to go back-to-back. He's on pole, 39.841. He'll bring us to the green flag along with Chris Shearburn on the front row. My pick for tonight's race win, Ryan Lewis starts third. Steve Sheehan there with him as well. Bobby Zelensky, Nick Ottinger round out through P6.
Casey Kerwin with a great qualifying effort, going to lead off row number 4 as with the outside it's John Gorlinski. They continue to go down this list. Matt Busa, Garrett Lowe, Logan Clampett looking for a great run, and Justin Bolton went to victory lane with the Stewart Haas Xfinity team last weekend, going to try to get another win here tonight.
As we look down, Nathan Lyon and Bob Bryant are going to roll off from row 7 with Michael Connie and Graham Bolin on row number 8. Ashton Crowder and Zach Novak are going to round out the tail end of that next row card.
And then you find yourself halfway home where things will be chaotic. The likes of Christian Chandler and Courtney Vincent back into the mix. Jimmy Mullis deep in the pack for Richmond Raceway Esports. You've also got then Brad Davies, Colin Keister for Junior Motorsports and Roush Fenway.
And then you got some more names back here that are going to have to get up on the wheel and get to the front of the field. Yarrell T and Michael Guest, Kane Cook, Michael Guerrilla, Dylan Duvall starting deep in the field again, and Malik Ray has some work to do too.
Yeah, as we look deeper and deeper here, Alex McCullum and Ray Alfala, Tim's pick, is going to have to do big work here. Jake Nichols and Brian Schoenberg back here, along with Phil Diaz, and the winner of this race last year, the 9 of Eric Smith.
Yeah, those Motorsports cars find themselves as well together at the back, and then all the way back through row 20, Santiago Tires and Jeremy Allen going to sit row 20. That makes up your 40-car grid here tonight from the Auto Club Speedway. We mentioned it during the pre-race coverage, Tim, a track that's been on the calendar since 2014. This race has only ever seen one repeat winner. What's in store for us?
I think we're going to see that trend continue, but there are 4 former winners in this race. Fuel windows 44 to 48 laps, pit road speed 55 miles an hour. We're going 100 laps. This is the second consecutive year we've gone 100 laps. Used to be a 125 lap race. Last season was wild. Eric Smith went to victory lane. We'll see who can tame this Auto Club Speedway and punch their ticket into victory lane this evening.
And of course, as the field rolls, drivers have been talking basically all week long. It feels like, although Daytona was just 2 weeks ago, Randy, that it was months ago with how much has happened in between now and then. A lot of these drivers have been talking about how much practice they've been putting in. A lot of them more than a dozen hours. Literally, I mean, hundreds and hundreds, thousands of laps to try to figure this thing in. But the common denominator, no matter how much or how little you practiced, is everybody says that you're going to want to buckle up for this one.
Yeah, last Tuesday night when the checkered flew at Daytona for a number of drivers is definitely when the warm-ups and the practicing started, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that culminates here. Like you said, different track conditions, running in the daylight compared to going into the night like we did last season, going to really change how this track works. And let's be real, everyone's looking forward to the first 10 or so laps of every run when these guys are stacked up on one another, when the tires are fresh, and the draft is so strong in these current gen cars.
We went some 9 weeks to start last season where all of the margin victories were within 1 second. This was one of those highlight races, and we're happy that you're going to be a part of it for the 2020 iteration. This time by to turn 4, pace car to the safety of the pit lane, and the field is going to be in the hands of your race winner from last week at Daytona, in Keegan Leahy. We get set as we say, let's go racing from Fontana. Round 2 underway, and it's the Denny Hamlin Racing Toyota on the gas through the gears to turn 1.
And a great start for Keegan Leahy as he drives it down into corner number 1. Battle's going to be for second. Ryan Luza going to go side by side with Chris Shearburn, the Letarte Esports 36, hanging out on the outside. And here comes Bobby Zielinski. That inside line moving early on this start as they go to the inside of Shearburn.
He basically pushes down the back straightaway. Look at Leahy. He makes that move all the way to the white line. He wants to protect that bottom into the corner. Took away all of his arc down into turn 3, but it is going to pay off. There's a bobble for him. He is sideways 3 wide for second now as Zielinski's in the middle. Look at the big run by Steve Sheehan. We are 5 wide at the end of lap 1, and the 36 car backs out of it.
This is going to get dicey with people struggling with their race cars. The 32 going to stick the bottom. We're still 3 wide as they roll into 1. Luza eyes up the outside of the 32 of Keegan Leahy off of turn 2. This is where the drama was at the end of the race last year. And we're going to get off of it clean as Keegan continues to defend bottom. But Luza and Zielinski both have runs.
As Zielinski was on the back of the 53, he tried to move to the middle. They were too wide for the race lead, nowhere for him to go, so he sits in from behind. Leahy leads both laps of this race. He'll hang on this time through as well, but Luza has made that transition from the bottom of the outside line. You see the Williams Esports Ford now in front as they race off to turn 1. The rest of the field behind them getting somewhat acquainted 2x2 as Nick Ottinger takes over 4th.
Yeah, drivers trying to feel out their race cars right now. Wild couple of first laps for those guys up front. You can see them fan out down the back straightaway, 2 and 3 wide, but up in front, Keegan Leahy trying to hold on, but there goes Luza to the inside. Luza going to try to take the advantage. Bobby Zielinski trying to get a sniff of that on the inside too.
That's the second time in a row you've seen the 32 Leahy get to the inside to try to protect it. That time, though, it did not work. And at lap number 3, new race leader Ryan Luza goes to the point. Bobby Zielinski not going to roll over. And again, this package, this track, a combination that means they can't just pass somebody and run away. You're on board with the Williams Esports entry of Luza. But look at the outside right here to turn 2. There goes Zielinski. He's got the speed as they race off for the 14 degrees of banking down the back straightaway and up back to turn 3.
That silver bullet of Zielinski noses in the lead entering turn 3, but wasn't quite able to get clear off of turn 4. We've seen several cars loose already, especially the ones leading the pack, maybe having these cars set up for running in the dirty air and across the stripe. The gap's going to be nearly nothing when they come to start finish, and Luza's going to lead that lap as well. They're still stacked up inside of our top 5 here, 2x2, and Luza trying to defend the bottom, but Bobby is so good in the middle of 1 and 2 right now.
Ford, Chevy, Toyota, 1, 2, 3 at the start-finish line. Look at the move to the very inside by Shearburn, who started second. And look at that shot down the back straightaway. Looks like plate racing down the back. That is first through 40th, only separated by 3.3 seconds at the start-finish line the last time through. It is going to be difficult, though, for cars to make some moves. Logan to clamp it up a few spots early, side by side for the lead once more. Zielinski just 1,000 short of getting his first bonus point of the afternoon. Luza stays in front down low. And you can see these drivers, Tim, they don't look all that concerned with getting up to the fence and really swinging it down into the corners. These drivers able to make it stick down there early on.
Saw a couple of drivers. You're going to see Chris Shearburn go back to the inside here too. Kind of gets off of the corner, goes to the inside, tries to make that move. and really doesn't have the momentum to do so. We saw it at Logan Clampett the last time by as well. That inside line trying to make some moves. It gets back to single file up in front. Ryan Luza going to lead this lap by with Bobby Zalenski close in behind. Keegan Leahy there as well. Familiar customers up near the front of the field as that 36 of Chris Shearburn tries to position himself to try to make a move. They go back to side-by-side racing as they enter corner number 1. Look at Zalenski try to roll that outside line.
He's been up there for the last 4 laps in a row or so. Every time he get right here at it too, he's got in front. But look at Luza pushing up and basically trying to squeeze him up against the fence, give him as little room to work with as possible. The 32 Leahy third in line, watching on as Shearburn tries to tuck it on him, but it is basically too wide throughout the field. These drivers put on a show in that Daytona opener. That race was 3 wide throughout. Only real incident came on that last lap. That would have been caution free. If I'm a gambling man, I would not bet that tonight goes that same distance without a yellow. But so far, so good. Inside, outside, both working down at this end of the racetrack. 53 Aluza unable to clear again for the top spot.
And you bring up a good point there, Evan, about this race likely probably not going that long without seeing a caution. Of course, here at California, even though the package is really is built to this sort of racing here, you're going to see these tires fall off here over the next 10 or so laps, and we're probably going to see things single file out as Luza able to get clear of the 83. You're seeing some stacking up in the mid-pack here behind the 32 Leahy. This is the fight for 3rd, 4th, 5th. He's eyeing up the outside of Logan Clampett, and down on the bottom, the 36 of Chris Shearburn. They're going to go 3 wide, so maybe they want to try to keep it 3 by 3 for nearly 100 laps, but I don't think they're going to be able to do that. As these cars and these tires start going away, you're going to start seeing ill-handling race cars, Evan, start to come out. We've already seen a couple people really struggle, notably that 32 is right on board with the 99.
He started in 11th position, right now sits in position 5. It's the Valvoline Toyota for Burton Kligerman Esports of Logan Clampett, right-hand side. That is exactly what he sees in real time. On the left-hand side, that's what he looks like while he's doing it. He's made that drive from 11th now up to 3rd, and he's on the back bumper of Ryan Luza, who leads this race, still side-by-side with Bobby Zalenski. You can see and they get right down to that white line, but you don't want to get down onto that apron, or that race car is going to snap loose, and then as they race down the back straightaway, they'll have some bumps to deal with down in turn 3.
Yeah, you see that laser focus there as Logan Clampett tries to take the lead. He's been working methodically on that inside line, Evan, trying to pick up a couple of positions as he moves forward towards the front of the field. He's got Chris Shearburn to the outside, trying to give a little draft to Ryan Luza and push him further ahead. But I foresee Logan Clampett trying to take the lead here. He's a California boy, wants to win at his home racetrack and put Burton Kligerman Esports to the front. And I don't think it's going to be long before we see that number 99 poke that nose out.
He just needs an opportunity. He's kind of pinned down by Shearburn on the outside, so for the moment, he rides in line on the bottom. It's been a few times since we've seen Logan Clampett last at victory lane at Indianapolis in 2018. His other career win coming at New Hampshire back in 2016. So if you stick with the number of every 2 years, he is due for a trip in 2020. And here he comes on the inside. He'll force his way to the bottom of Luza. Tucks on the bumper of Zalenski. Now he'll go to the apron. 3 wide for the race lead at lap number 12. He'll get on his door, establish some positioning, and it's all him looking into turn 1.
It's California natives at the head of the field. Logan Clampett in Orange County running down on the bottom side, and Bobby Zalenski from Fresno running the top line, and the 99. Big run. Look at Luza fighting with the 36 of Shearburn. Huge block coming from the 36 down the back straightaway as they go in towards 3 and 4, and Luza able to get up into that inside line that he was fighting to get to as they roll through. We've seen the bottom side be strong here off of 4 through these first 12 laps, and Logan Clampett's going to lead a lap here as they come to the stripe.
It's like a Pocono restart every single lap of the race. I think that's the best way to describe it. Look at the right-hand side of your screen. The battle for 14th on the back. It is 2, 3 wide, absolutely everywhere. And the reason I think this one's so much more difficult to maintain this kind of racing than Daytona, Tim, is because when you're on the plate track, you enter the corner on the bottom, you are on the bottom, on entry, on center, on exit. But here you do need to walk it down the hill a little bit. You do need to come up to the fence off of the corner. And when you're 2, 3 wide, you miss misstep by a couple of feet this way or that way, somebody overjudges or misanticipates what you're doing, it is so easy to get in each other, and these cars are never dipping below, at least at this point in a run, 170 miles an hour, so it's not going to be real easy to get away with anything.
You're racing the racetrack as much as you are the competition at a place like Auto Club Speedway compared to what we saw a couple of weeks ago at the Daytona International Speedway to kick off our season. So you're really playing that game of chess, especially in the middle of the pack, trying to maneuver yourself towards the front like we saw with Logan Clampett to get himself towards front. Look at this mess here in the middle of the pack. You see Ashton Crowder in there, the teammate to Logan Clampett, trying to make his way towards the front of the field. Jimmy Mullis trying to poke his way towards the front. You really have to be on pins and needles, especially early in this race. You got lots of laps to work around here. We're going to complete lap number 14 this time by. Still plenty of time to get yourself to the front of the field, but you don't want to get caught up in anybody else's mess in the middle of the pack where you got to battle for the lead.
Battle for the race lead on once more as you see the 99 of Logan Clampett, this time to the outside. Chris Shearburn making the move on the bottom, almost clear at a turn 2. There's a great shot down the straightaway. He got him. Clampett wasn't able to carry that speed through the quarter, so the 36 car clears for the moment. But again, there is no checking out. Only 15 laps in to a 100-lap contest in Fontana. Luza still right here in the mix as well. You've got Zelensky. You've got Kerwin at 25 of Ottinger as well in the picture. How about the 18 of Graham Bolin? Started 16th position. You can see his Interstate Batteries Toyota now running 9th. That's the Joe Gibbs Racing driver, new to 2020.
Yeah, there's a number of people that have moved up. A couple we've already mentioned. Logan Clampett, of course, 11th and up to 2nd. And going back to the race lead, he's going to nose just ahead of that 36 Letard Esports car of Chris Shearburn. Like you said, Graham Bolin as well. A couple other movers, Jimmy Mullis as well, who currently sits in the 16th spot. That number 46 Coca-Cola car from Richmond Raceway Esports doing well, moving his way forward through the field, and a little bit of picture-in-picture action here as well as he's buried in this mid-pack, which seems to be really difficult to start getting yourself through.
And Mullis stuck with Richmond Raceway Esports through the offseason. It was joined by 2019 champion Zach Novak to create a dynamic two-car duo. His Coke Energy 46 has made some strides. You see the 66 car Jarl Tien just passed him up in front of him, but that is a lot of heavy traffic. You want to talk about a good analogy. Southern California traffic on the racetrack this afternoon, side by side, still throughout the field. Maybe a little bit of separation. We said that they were 3.3 seconds apart through the field, Tim, at lap 2. We're up to 3.6. So they are separated, but ever so slightly. It's going to be awfully difficult to get any sort of space. And look at the dive now to the inside. Shearburn got pushed by Luza. He's got a world of speed down into 1, and he'll rocket back to the race lead as the 99 now looks to the inside. He'll go for the crossover.
That accordion comes back together off the corner. The 99 goes to the inside. Logan Clampett trying to pick up that lead again. Chris Shearburn on the outside. Now can Chris do the same thing and try to get to the inside and get that crossover move? He's going to get down to the inside and block the momentum of Bobby Zelensky, but he's not going to be able to get that run off the corner. It's going to be Logan Clampett leading almost 3 wide in behind as Nick Ottinger has the nose in the middle.
And you could probably just take the ticker off of the screen, Randy, tell somebody we're funning for the checkered flag, and they'd believe you. You would think that this race coming down to the wire, we're not even halfway through our first fuel window of the afternoon. But the problem is, if you're not up on the wheel making moves, you're going backwards.
Yeah, and all of the biggest names that have been in this series the last couple of years are moving their way forward. We've seen Logan Clampett be a huge name, see him pushing Chris Shearburn down the back straightaway. Bobby Zelensky's been a big name. The most popular driver from 2019, Casey Kerwin, he's just checked into the top 5 and is trying to get around Bobby Zelensky. Of Ryan Luza up here, and as well as that number 21 of Garrett Lowe, he's moved up here. Nick Ottinger, Steve Sheehan, a lot of the most consistent drivers through 2018 and 19 are at the head of this field right now.
And there's the onboard shot again with Clampett as he goes to the outside of Shearburn. They have a little bit of breathing room over third on back, but again, that 36 car has been so good on the bottom. There's the crossover back to the inside. These two have flip-flopped like that several times in a row now as they battle for the race lead. We'll see how it plays out down in turn number 3. For more information on how you can start your iRacing career, log on to iRacing.com. I'll tell you what, it's been a long ladder to the top for these drivers, but you can have a lot of fun on the service the second you sign yourself up. iRacing.com for more information. Here we are in the one again, and you can see that advantage that the top two had is kind of evaporated. Casey Kerwin back on the prowl in the Jordan brand number 23.
Everybody kind of moves back in together as they battle for that lead position, but your top two have a little bit of an advantage down the back straightaway, albeit maybe a car length or so as they dive it down into corner number 3. You saw it on the last onboard that we saw with Logan Clampett. New sponsor in that 36 this week with Letard Esports NBC Track Pass hopping on board. Great to see a new partner on that Letard Esports car, and I know it's on Santiago Tierez's number 4 on the hood as well, so welcome to them. They've done some great coverage of the new Smyrna Speed Weeks, the ARCA Series, and now it looks like they're going to go to the lead and try to get back to the front of the field as they're battling with the 99 Logan Clampett, Shearburn to the inside.
And we're on board with Shearburn, so you can't see it now, but I'll tell you what, the best way to get that ad space and your money is worth, put it on the back bumper, be the first car up in the field. Logan Clampett has had a view of the back of the 36 a few times tonight. This time, it's flipped around because Clampett does clear off into 3, and now we do have a little bit of a breakaway with your top 5 cars. It's Clampett, Shearburn, Kerwin, Zelensky, and Luza. Single file in each other's wake. That's because there's a two-way duo kind of holding everybody P6 on the back, and that's Garrett Lowe finding with the number 1 machine of Steve Sheehan. That battle has a couple of cars stuck behind us. Now we go for the race lead again.
And you mentioned this breakaway, Evan, and it's not just up here amongst your race leaders, it's the entire field. For the first 15, 18 laps, we were seeing that 3 wide, 4 wide in a couple moments, even 5 wide coming to the end of your opening lap. These tires are starting to go away on these race cars. Most of these drivers, the early phases of the run, lap 5, lap 6, for most guys is around their quickest lap. We're seeing laps in the 40.2, 40.3 window. These guys are dropping off. 40.9 last trip around the racetrack for Logan Clampett. He'll come across the timing beam this time through, and he's going to drop into the 41s. So tires are starting to go away, and I think that's why you're starting to see this whole field single file out.
And it's obviously going to play out differently. A new tire model, obviously a big part of it, but of course we mentioned daytime race this year versus that nighttime race last year. Some cooler track temps in that one, meaning that this time around, maybe that tire fall off is going to be more amplified than what drivers had experienced, and that's where those thousands of laps and hundreds, dozens, and maybe even hundreds of hours of testing, maybe team-wide, certainly hundreds, comes into play when you talk about the 2 weeks off that these drivers have in between races on the calendar. So even if those 3rd, 4th, 5th cars in line want to just ride single file a little bit, nobody has passed that memo up the chain of command to Shearburn and Clampett, who's still in 1st and 2nd, ride side by side. All 40 cars who started this race still in it. You're on board with the driver out of Matthews, North Carolina, Casey Kerwin, the Denny Hamlin Racing car teammate to our race winner from last week, and Keegan Leahy. He is now in 3rd position on the racetrack, and as I mentioned, Leahy, I look back to him, he's 3 wide at the tail end of the top 10. So tons of stuff going on as now we're starting to see some of those mid-pack cars make moves. Logan Clampett, he started 11th. He runs 2nd. We mentioned Garrett Lowe and Graham Boland. Those cars started in 10th and 16th. They're up to 8th and 9th now. So these drivers are starting now with some separation to be able to make some moves forward.
We talked about Logan Clampett getting the lead by the leaders swapping that first position back and forth. We're seeing Casey Kerwin being able to get up here and have a piece of this lead because Chris Shearburn and Logan Clampett are going back and forth. There goes Casey Kerwin to the inside, sticks that nose 3 wide to the inside. They'll go for the top spot down into corner number 3. This is going to accordion everybody else back together, but we'll see if Casey Kerwin can get that run on the inside. And here we go, one more to the inside, 4 wide down the front. Here comes Luza.
Luza all the way to the apron. Shearburn again, way up top's going to tuck in line behind Clampett, and Luza needs to get up the hill to get some sort of an arc down and into the corner. He does so. Luza bottom, but it is going to be the middle for Casey Kerwin, who squeezes between the 53 and the 99 at Clampett to stay in front for the time being. You're on board with Graham Boland. He's got the best seat in the house, I think, in his Gibbs Toyota. 3 wide And now for fourth on back, Shearburn got tight and nearly pushed up into Leahy.
Just one mistake, and the 36 of Shearburn falls like a stone. Was fighting for the race lead a lap ago. Now he finds himself just on the outside of the top 5 as Casey Kerwin leads that lap by 1/100th of a second. Going to try to run the bottom here on the 99 of Logan Clampett, but we've seen that middle line be so good coming off of turn 2, and the 99 is going to have the advantage coming down the back straightaway. Going to have nearly a full car length lead. Won't quite get clear, but Kerwin is going to definitely fight for it up the inside, this has been the strong end of the racetrack for this low line down along the bottom, but Casey doesn't quite hook it up. The 99 has maybe a chance to get clear here, but no, Casey able to settle there in the middle line as we got a second Danny Hamlin racing car trying to check in.
It's the teammate to the bottom, pole sitter Keegan Leahy will dive to the inside of Kerwin and will dance 3 wide for the race lead once more. No late move by Luza. He sits back and forth and watches it all unfold. Look at that slide there in the middle line for that 23 of Kerwin. That 99 of Clampett did an okay job on the high side in 4. He's actually been a lot better at that end of the racetrack than he was on the outside right back there in turn 2. He's not able to quite make that spot stick, and that's why he ends up back in line. And you talk about some of the new teams to the series. Denny Hamlin, I'm sure real happy that his driver got the first win of the campaign, but I'm sure he's really liking seeing those cars 1-2 as we put 29 laps behind us from Auto Club Speedway. It is still Luza pushing to 32 on the bottom, and a 99 Clampett pushing to 23 on the outside. Small separation. It'll be rinse, wash, repeat. And we'll battle, I think, once more for the race lead. But we are now past the halfway point in this first fuel run. 30 laps going to be complete this time by of 100 in this Fontana 200. And as the team cars go at it, you think they take it easy on each other.
You think they would, but right now they're going out and trying to win this race and trying to position themselves for a good stint into pit road. As you mentioned, just a few laps away from seeing these drivers back on pit road. They're going to have to make 2 stops at this point, around 44 to 48 laps. If they can extend it to 50, I don't think they're going to get there. They might have to make 2 stops if this thing goes green. Evan comers and goers in this one. Justin Bolton has re-entered the top 10. He's up to position number 6 as he works down the back straightaway behind these Denny Hamlin racing cars.
And even further down the field, Tim, I know you'll like this one. Your pick, Ralph Wallace, started 32nd. He's up to 13th at lap number 31. We'll continue to watch the battle as it rages on from Fontana, but so far clean and green in round 2. Pit stop shortly on the horizon.
This just in. Is Jonah Hill going to flake out on Martin Scorsese? The world wants to know.
Come on, Jonah, come on.
Finally, I apologize.
I am back. After months away, I return. I am the 2020 NASCAR Cup Series. I am NASCAR.
Hey NASCAR fans, this is Jonathan Merriman, and your race day just got more exciting. NASCAR Finish Line is completely free to play and gives you the chance to win a $50,000 jackpot each race. For the first 6 questions, you'll be shown a group of 6 drivers. Pick which driver from the group you think will have the best finish in the race. Each correct pick is worth 50 points. For the final question, you pick who will win the race. Correctly predict the winner of the race, and you'll get 200 points. You can track your picks in the live tracking section. The leaderboard updates in real time, so you always know where you stand. If you get all 7 questions correct and finish with a score of 500 points, you win or share the $50,000 jackpot. Didn't get a perfect score? No worries. We're giving out $1,500 worth of guaranteed prizes to the top finishers in each contest. Start your engines and make your picks now.
Well, Keegan Leahy stays out at the front of the field. He's all on his own off into turn number 3. because that is pit stops. First cycle underway right at the 1/3 mark here in Fontana. And Tim, we took a look at the start of the night. That maximum fuel window, 48 laps, was not going to cut it on a one-stopper. So if you're going for two, might as well make the math easy. So lap 33, drivers were in. You can see them now blending back out onto the racetrack and down low. These drivers looking to go two to go to the distance.
Ryan loses Steve Sheehan among those coming down into pit road on that last lap by Evan, but you mentioned it. I don't see anybody pushing it towards 50. You might see somebody at the back that might be trying to get some track position, maybe stay out and try to catch a caution flag, but for the most part, these guys I think are going to pit around the same time. Their hands are kind of being forced right now in the 32 of Keegan Leahy will come up at a corner number 4 and decide to come down onto pit road on this lap. So hands are kind of being forced right now as a bunch more heading down towards the attention of the crews.
I found it interesting that he did not come down to the pit lane the first time through, but his teammate Casey Kerwin did. So Casey came down to the pit lane. Those were one of the two team duos that were out there on the racetrack together. But you can see Leahy in for service, Bolin there behind him. Less of a pack dive to pit road than what we saw in that Daytona season opener. So the next thing you know, we look back up, cycle back on the racetrack, and well, the Donnie Nada Logan Clampett's in a pretty good spot. You see the 2 machine there of Ray Alfala as well. All of these cars right now still awaiting the trip down to pit road. Alfala does not bite, but we do see Nick Ottinger in a little bit further behind. Expect all of this to wrap up in about the next 5 laps or so, Randy.
Yeah, that 99 of Clampett has already been on to and off of pit road. Ray Alfala right now is the first car leading that has not come down pit road. And the reason drivers are doing this is that there was about a 5-lap window from about lap 25, 26, up to about lap 30, 31, 32, where it seemed like everyone just lost 2 to 3 tenths of a second in lap time. So that's why we're seeing the pit stops about 10 or so laps earlier than what we may have been expecting if they were going to maximize the fuel run. But now we're going to see what Ray can do. Ray has historically been someone who likes to run his fuel pretty much nearly dry and really push the tires as long as he can. You see that number 1 down there at the bottom, nearly getting into the back room. They're 3 wide, all cars on new tires, trying to cycle by Ray.
Yeah, that 2 car up top looks so slow because he's got the old tires. Everybody else that just passed him has already gotten service. Ray Alfala holds a 1.7 second lead over his teammate from last year, Chris Overland. The ride spin Ford for the Wood brothers runs in second position. Then you've got the likes of Gorlinski and Nichols, but a lot of these cars who have yet to come down to the pit lane have kind of been swallowed up by the larger groups of cars who have pitted and gotten back out onto the racetrack. It's almost exactly a lap's worth of time, Tim, that you give up by coming down pit road.
And some of these drivers, as you mentioned, on those different strategies, trying to maybe try something. These drivers have been here to Auto Club before and have been to racetracks like Michigan, as you mentioned on the pre-race show, Evan. So some differing strategies being played out here, but for the most part, we usually see a lot of them come back together near the end of the race. But we're closing in on that lap 40 mark of this race at the Auto Club Speedway, and we're seeing some of those drivers make those different calls, make those different strategies. But right now, Ray Alfala, he knows how to win here at Auto Club. He's done it before up in front of that VRS car.
And we'll see just how long he's going to push it, because he could, in theory, try to get a little bit of laps saved out of it, as he almost had a close call with the 5 machine to go into the middle. That was Matt Busa. Again, fresh tires, not for position. The top 9 cars, top 10 cars still have yet to come down to the pit lane. Logan Clampett is the de facto race leader. He runs 11th right now. He pitted from about the race lead. I think he was second at the time because Leahy was out in front of him. So 11th on back has already pitted. The top 10 still need to come down. And you would think if you stray this far, is it possible to push to lap 50, go for a one-stopper?
I think if you waited this long, I think you're pretty much looking at potentially coming all the way down and maybe trying to stretch this into a one-stopper. I mean, you're only 2 laps off, and we know that if you're in the draft, Evan, you can have huge fuel savings. You think about what we saw at Indianapolis last year, what was an absolutely fantastic finish. The reason those cars that were as strong at the end of the race as they were at the end of the race was because they were in the mid-pack. They had big slipstream, and they were able to save immense amounts of fuel. If you're running in the mid-pack here, I don't doubt that you could maybe save 2, maybe 3 laps on a tank of fuel and maybe make a strategy call if you think this race might go green. My only thing is that if you're dependent on the slipstream, Evan, even if you can make it to lap 50, you then need to have that slipstream through the next 50 laps as well. So yeah, you might be able to make it to the halfway point through the first half, but how are you going to be able to get there through the second?
You can see for the race lead, battle continuing on. Again, this right now is for technically 10th, but it is the net race lead. So this is where the race leader will come from once everybody else has cycled down to the pit lane. So Ray Alfala, current race leader, right-hand side of your screen, the net race lead, which is the battle for 10th position. So Leahy, again, not pitted with these cars, didn't really cost him much. He cycles right back into the mix. He sits between the 99. And how about the 17 machine of Colin Keister? You want to talk about a sleeper who snuck in. He pitted at lap 34. Tim, we hadn't talked too much about him, but he finds himself now right in the thick of things in his Facet All Ford.
He was knocking on the door of the top 10 prior to green flag pit stops. We hadn't talked a whole lot about him, as you mentioned, but now he's inserted himself into this battle for the lead. Christian Chalner has made up some time as well in the 37 car. He's up here battling in this pack. Had just broken into the top 10 before those green flag pit stops began. So he's up here battling too. There's a lot of drivers that are really starting to flex their muscle and get themselves a little bit closer towards the front of the field as we work towards the halfway point in this race, and Ray Alfala continues to lead this thing. But here, your battle for the net lead continues to intensify. Bobby Zielinski is in this pack as well, was running up front a little bit earlier too. I can't wait to see how this all works out with the pit stops.
And you'll see when the timing and scoring at the top of your screen cycles through, the 11 cars that have yet to pit are Ray Alfala, Jake Nichols, John Gorlinski, Chris Overland, Phil Diaz, Santiago Tires, Blake Reynolds, Michael Guerrilla, and Nathan Lyon. Those are the 9 cars that have yet to come down to the pit lane, presumably trying to stretch to make it a one-stop race. And if that is the plan, if they can execute it, you want to talk about a headache, you're basically going to be having 2 different races going on at the same time. But if the majority of the field is going for the 2-stopper, does that make me feel any better or worse, Randy? Do I feel better that I might have figured something out, or am I nervous because you don't have as many people agreeing with you that your decision's going to be the race-winning call?
There's definitely at least one person who's 100% thinking he can stretch this, and it's the 5th place running car right now of Phil Diaz. Last lap going into turn 1, he was not only off the throttle, he was clutching that car into the entry of the corner, letting the revs drop all the way down. So there's definitely a fuel call coming from at least a couple of these guys, and I'd say at that point it's nearly all of them who are thinking they can make it to the halfway point on a single tank of fuel. So gonna be really interesting to see if they're able to manage this, but like I said, it's not just this first half you need to manage, it's the second half as well, as Leahy is trying to size up the 99 at Clampett.
And just to finish that note there, with Diaz clutching the car into the corner, his lap was still 0.2 of a second faster than that of Ray Alfala, who is your current race leader. Still watching this battle for, again, what will become the race lead, and I guess if you block that other strategy completely out of your mind, as Luza's throwing blocks down the back straightaway, preventing the bullet from getting to his inside in what is about 3rd or 4th in line in this group. These cars really don't care about those that are staying out. They're going at it. Leahy trying to go to the inside. He gets blocked. He'll go up top, side by side. As you see, Luza, you've got Keister, Bolin, Zielinski, Chalander, all these cars with Steve Sheehan also not that far out of the picture.
Evan, strategy-wise, you hit the nail on the head. You have to own your decision right now. You made your bed. You have to sleep in it now, regardless what side of the strategy you're on. Whether you're one of the top 9 that has stayed out on the racetrack or you're in this mess right here, battling for what would be the net lead. You really have to commit and own to your decision, and it looks like these drivers are doing so, and they don't care about the other 9 that have stayed out on the racetrack. They're battling for this, what would be the net lead position, as Keegan Leahy and that 99 of Logan Clampett continue to fight tooth and nail for that spot, as Ray Alfala is still on the racetrack. We expect him in around that halfway point if he can stretch it, because he's going to complete 47 right here.
So he's got to get at least 3 more laps in if he wants to hit his number. And we say the net race lead. I know it's all circumstantial to the end of the race, but those cars are going to pit. And when they do, these cars will become the leader. The question is, if those other cars can make that one-stop strategy work, how far will this group end up behind them when they eventually make their second and final stop? And then, of course, would they be able to catch them and make up that time lost? All of this is assuming that this race stays green through the distance. Drivers warn that it may be a crazy one, but right now the craziness is coming from the strategy. The on-track stuff has been great from the get-go. Left-hand side, the battle for the net race lead, and the right-hand side, you're watching the battle for 19th.
Yeah, so there's fights up and down the racetrack right now. Let's do a quick roll call of the drivers who are doing this long fuel run strategy. It's Ray Alfala, Jake Nichols, John Gorlinski, Chris Overland, Phil Diaz, Santiago Tires, Nathan Lyon, Michael Gariglia, and Blake Reynolds. Those are the 9 cars who are trying it right now. Nathan Lyon was just all the way off the throttle entering turn 1. So 9 drivers here, Evan, are who we have to keep our eye on, not only here in the next coming lap for pit road to get busy for them, but how late do they come down? If you can, I think maybe you try to stretch this lap 51, lap 52, as Ray is in on lap 49, and I think Nichols is following him in.
Ray Alfala comes to the pit lane. Jake Nichols is not going to, but Gorlinski does. It looks like Phil Diaz is in. So a 50-50 split on if you could make it or not, and Alfala goes too deep in the box. The 2 cars got to back it up and reposition. That is going to cost him some time. He is down pit road. I'm more concerned about not being able to make it halfway than I am about that slide through the pit box. 4 cars came down pit road. Now you're going to see everybody else who stayed out head on in. There is Jake Nichols in the 24, the Moto Motorsports entry. He's your race leader. He has done half the laps. He is pitting. Chris Overland down pit road as well. Expect to see Tires in. Here is Lyon, Gariglia, Reynolds, and Gorlinski. That cycles through all the one-stop cars. They made it halfway, so if they can replicate that run, they could go the distance.
And as they come out of corner number 4, your leaders will come across and officially count halfway home right here. 50 down, 50 to go from the Auto Club Speedway. So we're halfway through this race right now, Evan. We've got 2 different pit strategies going on. We haven't had a race here at Auto Club before that has gone caution-free, so you would expect something to happen in the second half of this race. I'm excited. Grab your popcorn. This one's going to be good.
But I promise you, we're not going to now that you brought it up. I think that's going to be the curse. We'll see how it plays out. Here's the race down the back straightaway. You can take the net out of it. It is the battle for the race lead in Fontana. They're going to get it when they cycle back around these cars, and it is that 32 of Leahy back on top, followed by Clampett, followed by Luza. Quite a trio up at the front. Graham Bolin is the all-green number Toyota. The number 1 machine of Steve Sheehan is there as well. So all of these cars battling for the lead. Here's the replay with Ray Alfala sliding through the box. He locked it up. Pit road speed here at Fontana, 55 miles an hour, and that cost him about a second and a half a time. So he's going to probably be behind all of the other cars that were on the same strategy as him. He had about a second advantage. You can kiss that goodbye.
Yeah, he's about in the same mix of cars, really. He's come out with the likes of John Gorlinski, who was another one of the cars who came down pit road at the halfway point. He's also still ahead of Phil Diaz. He actually executed pretty well. Jake Nichols is behind Ray Alfala also. So Ray, despite that mistake, did managed to keep his track position decently well, as we still have this huge 9-10 car pack at the head of the field that's trying to figure it out amongst themselves, but no one being overly aggressive here at the moment, knowing that they have a lot of laps to go, and actually they're going to be coming up on their pit window here pretty soon.
Past the halfway point as we start to count down the laps now. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. Still looking for our first caution flag of 2020. Clean and green through Daytona. Big wreck on the last lap, doesn't count towards the stats, and so far so good here tonight in Southern California. Keegan Leahy is your race leader. He won last week at Daytona. Logan Clampett's been one of the best cars tonight. He's hot on his heels in second, but we are in the midst of a 2-stop strategy race. Those cars who are on the 1-stop call are 32nd position and back. Gorlinski is the lead. Carlo spinner! The 18 car just got tagged. Bolin is down and into the grass, and none of it matters. First caution flag of the afternoon.
That first caution flag flies at a very critical time. It's lap 54. These guys can come down and make the rest of the race if it does go green. But the 18 of Graham Bolin, the one that pops the cork per se on that stat you mentioned, Evan, first caution flag of the season, and they were battling hard for a top 5 spot to get there.
They were, and it was single file down the back straightaway until I believe Christian Jolliter tried to look to the inside. The 18 machine was there. There was a little bit of contact. Next thing you know, he gets hooked, and it was very quick on the caution flag. We've seen many of incidents similar to that, Randy. Get away without having one, but that yellow came out right away. First yellow of the night, and now it doesn't matter how viable that one-stop strategy was. You've got cars who made that decision, like a John Gorlinski, who started in 8th position. You are now a low 30s car in the running order, because as Tim mentioned, we'll probably see pit stops right here to go the distance, and all of that was for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit of a shame, to be honest. I think we were all really hoping that we'd see this great strategy at least play out, at least get to lap 80, lap 90 before something like that happens. But, unfortunately, that was the risk, those guys going for the one stop. I mean, both strategies, this two stoppers, of course, you come down early. If you have anyone that's out there, they're going to benefit if there's a yellow, and we're going to get a replay of this incident when you're going to see it's just a bit of almost a rookie mistake here, I think, Evan, with the 18 trying to clear himself, or maybe even Challenger trying to clear himself moving up, and the 18 just gets pit maneuvered.
Yeah, such a razor-thin margin as that 18 machine did have Challenger looking to the inside, and I didn't notice anybody really go up all the way or go down all the way, but that slightest bit of contact took him around, and I mean, he didn't do a good job of saving it. That car damaged just from the actual contact, but that is what slows us down. Everybody on pit road, get your 4 tires, get your fuel, because you want to run the distance. The race off of the pit lane is going to be close. Logan Clampett will rock it. He'll be the first car off of pit road. For the cars with fresh tires, he is able to edge out Leahy. So did Challenger. But how about this, Tim? The cars who did the one stop, they decided to stay out.
Well, they've got fresh tires about 5 or 6 laps to go, so it's not a bad strategy. So we'll keep an eye on the 97 of John Gorlinski, the 16 out there as well of Chris Overland. Chris Overland's due for a really good run here to try to pick up maybe his first win in the series. Keep an eye on him. And the Wood Brothers number 16, the ride spin car, as you see a few more out here as we're continuing to work caution number 1.
It'll be an all-new running order when we get set to go back green, but for the moment it is the number 97 in control. Will the strategy play out in the end? Gorlinski on top as we're past halfway home and under the caution flag from Fontana.
Looking to stake their claim in the tour. It's going to be a one-on-one duel for the win down to the last lap.
That was an incredibly dominant run.
But I tell you what, Dave, that car is hooked up. You can see it turn the center.
And to victory lane.
Oh, I'd wreck my grandma to win a championship for sure.
Same now, Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way, you wasn't invited. Say you come to play, I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me, don't step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way, yeah, yeah. Out of the way, yeah, yeah.
And back live from Fontana, the top 7 cars have opted to stay out, so that'll be the one-stoppers on a little bit older tires. Fresh rubber for everybody from Logan to Clampett and P8 on back as we get set for a restart with 43 laps to go at Auto Club Speedway. Pace car down and in. Is this now going to be chaos to the end? Green flag back in the air. They're all chasing Gorlinski to turn 1.
You remember what we saw in the initial start of this race, Evan? Complete pandemonium as they broke out 3, 4, and 5 wide. I think we're getting ready to see it once again, but it's all behind John Gorlinski as they exit corner number 2 this time. Top 3 or top 4, single file as they now fan out down the back straightaway.
And there is no more biding your time to get to the end. Everybody going to be able to make it on a fuel to the end of this race. So it's all about getting yourself to the front ASAP. And look at Nichols. He had a whale of a push from Chris Overland. He'll go to the race lead. There's a lot of contact. Guerrilla's into the outside wall. He comes down into Clampett, and it is a big mess at a turn 4. Caution for the second time.
We went, something like 370 miles without a yellow, and we just stacked up 2 of them basically in the span of about 10 miles. That one starting with Guerrilla, and then pretty much just him losing control of that car, spinning down in front of the field. But that's a big incident there. You already see the 99 down on pit road. That's a huge disappointment for Logan.
And there was really 2 possible incidents there, and that's why I set off the restart, Tim. Is this going to be what kicks off the chaos? Because these drivers said this race could get out of control. It had been relatively tame, and tame no more. There were 2 pieces of contact. Clampett actually got hit by Leahy, and then it was Guerrilla who got loose on his own, then tapped by the 3 of Blake Reynolds. He got up into the wall, came down. We'll get a second look in just a moment, but either way, somebody was not making it out of turn 4. Guerrilla the first to go all the way around.
Yeah, there were a couple of cars sideways and loose around where Logan Clampett was, and it almost looked like everybody was trying to fumble the ball. Somebody was trying to catch it, and at the end of the day, they caught it, and it ended up being Logan Clampett going through and getting the worst of that one, especially after running up front and leading so many laps early in this one. Heartbreak, but if you're going to have your heartbreak, I guess you're going to have it early in the season, Evan. It just so happens, though, that this is Logan Clampett's home racetrack, and I'm sure it's going to sting for a little bit.
Other notable drivers, Steve Sheehan was involved in that one. He was up towards the front of the field earlier. So was Ryan Luza involved in that incident. He was one of the top running cars basically from the get-go. So not only did we shuffle up the running order with the cars with a one-stop strategy getting to the front, but now with a big incident, it's anybody's best guess how you've gotten to where you run in the blink of an eye. Your 33rd positioned car on the grid, Jake Nichols, is leading. Chris Overland, who started 37th, is now 3rd. And then Santiago Tires, who started 39th, is a top 5 runner.
Yeah, and Brandon Cattell, 38th, all the way up to 9th as well. John Gorlinski from William Byron Esports, he's really the only one of those drivers that did that one-stop strategy that ended up working out, and that really sits here, that started inside of the top 10. So everyone else doing everything they can, trying to work their way forward, as we have a couple looks at the incidents that we had here that brought out this caution.
And you'll see the contact. It'll start up at the front, but it's the 50 to Guerrilla. There's a little bobble there on his own. Then there's the tap, and then that car ends up into the outside wall. Not able to hold it down, and unfortunately nowhere to go for Logan to Clampett. Big issue. Zelensky barely avoids that one. That was Luza with the back end of the car up and in the air. He almost goes over. And again, most of the cars involved in this one just had nowhere to go, and that's why it happened. Here's now that second look a little bit deeper. Clampett's getting loosened up by Leahy right there, all on his own to begin with. They saved that near wreck just to get caught up in the trouble in front of them.
Yeah, that first little incident there at corner number 4 probably should have been a wreck, but they saved it. And then it just so happened that the wreck ended up being right in front of them. So wrong place, wrong time. But great piece of driving by Logan Clampett and Keegan Leahy, those guys back there trying to save the first incident, which ended up being a part of the grand scheme of things as the pace car lights are off and we're getting ready to go back to green flag racing. Was going to say a little bit earlier, we mentioned the trends off the top of the show. Cleanest race that we had here at Auto Club prior to tonight was 2 caution flags back in 2018. We've matched that so far. We're hoping to stay under that average of 5. I think these guys can get some green flag laps and get some of those jitters out of the way, get a clean start, and log some laps. I think we're going to see some green flag racing here.
Yeah, it's not like the cars off at the very get-go when we dropped the initial green flag of the night weren't going at it. I mean, that was aggressive racing, so there is nothing to say that we can't get through that, 10 or 15 lap chaotic window off of a restart and race it out to the end. The problem is every time you take 4 laps out of it by pacing around the racetrack, drivers feel like they need to kind of overcompensate that much more. They can, hey, I've got less time. This restart will now come up. We'll put 61 laps behind us and take a restart with 39 laps to go from Auto Club Speedway. It'll be Nichols and Gorlinski on the front row with Overland, Lyon, and Tires to round out the top 5 in the running order. The 24 gets to control for the pace car, dives down to the exit of the race start box. He'll go early, green flag, and those 3 cars down low. Right now coordinated, great run to turn 1.
These cars are old tires struggling. The 6 nearly got around, the 3 of Blake Reynolds nearly spun himself out here with the wheel spin. As see the big push between Nichols and Overland as they roll through 1 and 2. Couple of 14s trying to open up maybe a little bit of a gap to get ahead of these guys. But look at this mid-pack, they're fanning out nearly 3-4 wide.
This is what we expect. A lot of blocking happening down the back straightaway. They're 5 wide for something like 30th position. The race leaders, though, single file, bumper-to-bumper traffic. Some new faces in that. Nathan Lyon, he's under attack by the 3 of Reynolds. They almost touched. Look at the 4 of Santiago Tires. He'll look to the inside, but Chris Overland's going to block that lane for the time being. Gorlinski wants to go high, and here's the dive to the bottom for Chris Overland. The 24 car in front. The 24, though, not going to allow the 10, or the 16, rather, I should say, to get away. Now we've got 2 sets of 2x2.
And they can't get away. That's the thing. They're still side by side for the leaders. We're wrecking in behind. By the looks of it, a little bit of smoke. Everybody fans down to the inside. We're still green.
Yeah, there's a lot of cars down onto the apron, but so far, no caution. This race stays green. I believe it was contact in the field. There was a ton of contact, and a lot of cars ended up in the fence, but we never did get a caution flag for it. It was the 66 of Jarl Tien who got hit sideways. He's fine. We stay green, and we fight for the race lead. So it is now Nathan Lyon, 3rd car line on the bottom, and, for all of the chaos that the last 2 yellows of the incident has caused, the one constant that didn't get snake bitten, Bobby Zelensky, the 83 car, has been a factor all night, and he is not going anywhere. He and Keegan Leahy still in the top 8.
Oh, and the 16 nearly getting moved as they went down in towards turn 3 there. I'm pretty happy to hear the 83's doing well. My pick running strong. Both of your guys have had a little bit of problems, but look at all these teams at the head of the field that are looking for their first wins in these series. You have Mode Motorsports, who currently leads. Wood Brothers currently sits 2nd. Santiago Tires with Letard Esports came close to a couple wins last year as well, as we're going side by side with the replay of that little half incident you saw. But so many teams here Evan, at the head of the field looking for their first official victory in this championship. Great to see as they're nearly 4 wide down the back again.
There's the replay, though, with Santiago Tires getting clipped. He was able to hang on to it, so no caution. We stayed green. Up at the front of the field live, we're 3 wide. There's more contact. Tires gets hip checked. That contact coming from Leahy. It'll push the 4 car all the way up the hill. He's going to drop way behind now the race lead as it is getting dicey once more. That time by top 12 cars within 1 second of the race leader. You mentioned Moto Motorsports looking for a first win. The team owned by former Chicago Bears guard Kyle Long. Nichols new to that duo for this season, and here's Overland down at the bottom.
Chris Overland trying to get that key to victory lane for the first time in his career in this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series on that inside. But that one constant, Bobby Zelensky, continues to work that outside line. The 97 of John Gorlinski looking to punch his ticket into victory lane here at Auto Club, doing a fantastic job. Your top 4 broken away just a little bit from that 5th place driver, Nathan Lyon, the Roush Fenway Racing driver, trying to get back up here and trying to mix it up for the lead position.
And not a lot of teammate duos up here. Still got the Denny Hamlin guys of Kerwin and Leahy together, but other than that, you've got representatives from everybody. Team Dillon Esports, Clint Boyer Racing, to Burton Clearman. That's all for the trio of cars with Blake Reynolds, Cattell, Kerwin, and Don back. So not a lot of help, not a lot of friendly faces up front. Going to be a lot of every man for himself in the run down to the end of this thing. And again, keep in mind, we're still a long way for the end, as Nichols will go back down to the inside of Zelensky, side by side for the race lead once more, as we try to see who's going to be the next major player in this one. But even though you get to the race lead and you got a big target on the back bumper, it's not deterring these guys, Randy, from not wanting to lead. I'm not seeing a ton of cars saying, you know what, I'll just hang out in 7th or 8th for now. They all want to go for it, lead every single lap they can. Look at that, blocking down the back straightaway with the 77 Machida Crowder.
Yeah, Crowder getting shoved pretty much all the way down there to the inside, as we're going to go right on board here with the number 4 of Santiago Tires. And you're going to see here doing everything he can, trying to work his way forward. And you see those people in the background. We had a talk with Mr. Eric J. Smith at the top of the show, and you saw him in the background. Now you see Eric out on the left side of the screen here on the onboard, but he's doing everything he can, currently riding in 15th, as there's 2x2x2 up here at the head of the field.
And here's the replay of the contact that he had right there. Leahy came up and doored him pretty good, and he had to use every inch of the racetrack to hang on to that car. He was out in no man's land. He was just fighting for the race lead. Santiago right now runs in 15th position. One little bobble just like that put him nearly back through half of the field, although he's somebody who started in 39th, so making moves is not a huge concern for him, but it does make his life a lot more difficult as you look at a lead pack that is about 16 cars deep, still fighting for the race lead. Zelensky bottom side, Nichols up top for the 24, and it will be Zelensky back to the lead as we cycle out of turn 2. Look at the big swing to the inside, all the way to the apron goes Jake Nichols.
And he wasn't the only one. You saw a couple go down to the inside and try to pick up a couple of spots. Might have seen a couple of blocks thrown there as well down the back straightaway, but Jake Nichols is going to come out with the lead and going to try to bring John Gorlinski along with him. And Jeremy Allen, first time we really talked about him all night long. We know that he's good with this package that we have here on these mile and a halves, 2 milers, and here comes Jeremy Allen towards the front of the field. Keep an eye on him. He's going to be a threat before this one is all said and done.
And we were talking a lot about his teammate earlier on in Christian Chandler, but Jeremy R. Allen, the new driver who returns to this series after multi-year hiatus. Look at the blocking with the 77 car. Crowder is on the apron. That's about the 3rd time in the last couple of laps he's tried to make a move to the bottom, and those cars have blocked him to the apron every time. Now contact with Cattell. He goes up the hill in turn 4. He'll hang on, but they are really starting to fan out and really starting to push the envelope.
I don't think there's any way to say it. We're going to see a caution soon with the blocking we're seeing. Jake Nichols, last trip into turn 1, he really couldn't pick a line. He just kept blocking top, bottom, was almost following down the front straightaway. Then we saw a couple aggressive blocks there down the back straightaway. For any of these guys in the mid-pack, here it comes. There's a little bit of contact, couple cars sideways, but they save it. But this entire pack is getting ready to stack each other up.
That was Bolton going up the hill and getting into the 46 machine, I believe, of Jimmy Mullis in the center of the quarter. I have no clue how that was not a massive incident. There were about 4 cars sideways while all being side by side with one another, and I'm not sure they lifted. They're still 4 wide. With Tian on the apron this time, they'll resolve to just 2 wide by the time they get down to turn 1, but if this isn't flirting with fire, Tim, I don't know what is.
There's a lot of moves that are being made right now that we're used to seeing with 10, 5, maybe 2 laps to go, but they still have a handful of laps to go, over 25 laps to go in this one. Still a quarter of this race to go, and these drivers are positioning themselves to try to make that move and make that move quickly. Put yourself near the front of the field. Up in front, top 5 or so, single file. Really trying to bide their time right now as John Gorlinski and the rest of the field try to make their way up here in the top 5, but for the most part, out back, top 10 or so, they're getting 2, 3 wide. They're getting busy.
And I'm not sure how much of this is by design. I think with just so many near wrecks, a lot of the cars have dropped the back just by having to make those saves, kind of regather themselves. And I wonder if all of those near misses are going to spook them at all, or if they're going to get back up to the front here and just go right at each other's throats. Zelensky, the only car on the bottom. Look at that late transition. Chris Overland came down, nearly split himself over the nose of that Jordan number 23 of Casey Kerwin. Very close call there. They hang on. We find a Nancy to partner, and we do it again. Next time by, it'll be the final quarter of this race from Fontana. This portion of tonight's broadcast brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR.
Yeah, these guys are doing everything they can here to keep themselves clean, as Bobby Zelensky still, even with Jake Nichols, the 23 of Kerwin, is in it. One thing as well I need to think about here, Evan, is what are these guys who stayed out on the old tires? Remember, they didn't get a chance to come down pit road after their pit strategy. They're on about 9-10 lap older tires when they stayed out at the caution. So the likes of Jake Nichols, the 16 of Chris Overland, as this run goes on, they're going to hit that plateau we saw in the first run a lot sooner than the rest of these guys that were able to come down pit road at the caution and get 4 fresh tires.
And you can see with the 77 and the 16 doing battle now that Ashton Crowder trying to carry the torch for his duo after Clampett got in that incident and dropped out of this. Let's take a look at our Coca-Cola onboard camera. It is with Casey Kerwin right now, who is third on the racetrack. He's working on the bottom. That is Zelensky in front of him, and just a sliver of the 24 is visible to the outside of Jake Nichols. He's got just as good a shot as anybody to go to victory lane in this one. Look at the draft on the straightaway. He'll look to the outside, actually made contact a little bit. That hindered his run, and when he opened up the outside now, Crowder dives to the bottom.
Ashton Crowder takes a look to the inside, battle for position number 2. In behind Bobby Zelensky as they run down the back straightaway as the Jordan number 23 of Casey Kerwin goes down to that inside, tries to go back up to the outside line, trying to make a move and make the move towards the front, but Bobby Zelensky holding a pretty wheel up in front. Casey Kerwin gets that run off of the outside, but there goes Ashton Crowder to the inside.
And you can see the side-by-side. This is a great view off of the back end of Kerwin's machine. The battling going on behind him with Nichols and the 97 machine of John Gorlinski. That car representing William Byron Esports. So a lot of those new teams to the series having a good night so far. VRS, William Byron Esports, Denny Hamlin Racing. They are all up into the mix. There's contact for the race lead as the 83 got shoved down the hill. There was no lifting from the 23.
Yeah, and of course that Jordan sponsorship, Evan. I mean, big, of course, deal for Denny Hamlin Racing coming in. Those guys having a big year, of course, winning the season opener. Denny just in his own right, winning the Daytona 500 a couple of weeks back. And, of course, we saw Michael very, very emotional at Kobe Bryant's memorial over the last day or so, and what a way it would be for them if to go from that and have get that Jordan logo into potentially victory lane here at California in Los Angeles, just about an hour east or so of Los Angeles sits this racetrack. What a way to honor not only Jordan but even Mr. Kobe Bryant as well.
And you can see as they go 4 wide that you're going to see a lot of those tributes in the Cup Series race this weekend in Fontana. Getting used to some of these new paint schemes. One of the cool stories behind that number 23 car is that Michael Jordan himself had a say in how that race car would look, and it has come out real nice. A lot of real fresh paint schemes on track for 2020, and I've got an idea that I think these teams are going to keep coming out with more and more as the season goes on. But of course, the cars look good right now, Tim, but I mean, they can look good at lap 80. It's good to get the TV time, but these cars need to stay in one apiece as we need to go still 20 more laps as of this time by. It has calmed down a little bit, and I think those incidents actually force these drivers to get a bit of separation.
And through all of that, Ashton Crowder is going to go to the front of the field, the driver from Charlotte, North Carolina, driving for Burton Kligerman Esports to the top of the board. But you mentioned teammates coming towards the front. How about Garrett Lowe and Chris Overland? The Wood Brothers teammates are up here mixing it up in the top 10. We saw Chris Overland try that strategy. He's in 7th place right now. Garrett Lowe moving towards the front to the inside. He goes for position number 4. I better believe that John Wood and James Gutta and all those guys are up on the edge of their seat right now trying to get these Wood Brothers cars into victory lane, but they've got 2 good horses right now in the top 10.
Yeah, that 21 machine new driver this year is Garrett Lowe made the transition over to that stable. He's got Chris Overland with him. I mentioned off at the top the reason I had to pick Toulouse to win this race. And listen, it wasn't a bad pick until it was involved in the incident that my fantasy is going to take a hit for the year is because of Michigan as well. And you want to talk about close calls? Chris Overland nearly won that race last year for the Wood Brothers. Tonight going to be some redemption for him in that number 16 car.
Yeah, it really could be. I mean, we saw him. He was very, very good at Michigan and still side by side for the race lead. They were 3 wide through 1 and 2 dealing with a lap car, and they're going to be 3 wide again down the back straightaway. Kerwin, slight advantage up top. Valensky in the middle, and it's going to be Ashton Crowder on the bottom, the second Burton Kligerman Esports car we've seen get aggressive out here in this race. Of course, it was Logan Clampett earlier. He got caught up in an incident, really no fault of his own, to be honest, but the 77, Ashton's going to now carry the torch here for that team, and man, what a way it would be for him, Evan, to win at Darlington last year as a rookie and come out here early and scratch a win for the 77. That'd be great for him and that organization as well as Bobby goes back to the lead.
He goes back to the top spot. Crowder has been trying so many times to get to the inside. He's been blocked countless opportunities that I'm sure is getting tired with these guys up front. Look at Kerwin to the outside. The 77 trying to follow that draft wherever he can, but now with Lowe on the top side, he'll have to stick to the bottom and follow in line with the 83 machine. Again, these drivers good on the field to go the distance. A scheduled lap of 100, but we could see some overtime if necessary. There he is to the inside again. Ashton Crowder trying to make the inside work. We're 3 wide for the race lead, but he can't clear on the inside. And now here comes Zelensky back through the middle.
What a move. Crowder drove it to the inside. I'm here, boys, going for the lead position, and he battles with the 83 of Bobby Zielinski. He made his hole to the inside, and here it looked like the 23 of Casey Kerwin was going to go to the inside. John Gorlinski now going to occupy that position in that William Byron Esports number 97 as they go side by side for first, side by side for third, and they're all stacking up behind from fifth on back trying to make a move.
That onboard there as well was a real good illustration of how bumpy the back straightaway and down to turn number 3 is here in Fontana. All of these tracks of the iRacing service laser scanned to millimeter accuracy. You'll never sim race on anything more close to the real thing than you will here on iRacing. For information on how you can start your iRacing career, log on to iRacing.com for more information. Your first race ain't going to be in a series where the champion gets $100,000, but hey, these guys had to start somewhere as well, as we'll take 15 laps to go.
Yeah, they're still nearly nose to nose here as they come across the stripe. Look at Casey Kerwin trying to eye up this move. Not going to go 3 wide, though, and I like that knowing there's about 15 laps to go here, Evan. I think in this window, don't get overly aggressive now trying to get to that race lead, try to get to second, trying to get up, gain spots here. Pick up a spot when you can, but don't get overly dicey because any caution is going to reset that, and you want to leave your tires as well. Tire conservation through these last 15 laps going to be very important. Don't want to roast them now and kill them for the last 5 or so lap run as Crowder able to start eking out an advantage here off of 4.
He is getting a little bit of separation. I'm sure he wants to enjoy that clean air for as long as he can, but now you got to kind of set your sights on who's going to be the contenders and who are going to be the pretenders, because not all 15 cars can be there on the last lap. So who are you most worried about? Casey Kerwin, who goes to the inside, Zelensky, Lowe, those guys are fighters. And listen, you got 14 cars within 2 seconds of the race leader, Tim, but at some point, if I'm Blake Reynolds at a P8, I need to get that Coca-Cola Chevy to the top 5 spot. If I'm Chris Overland, I got to get back up there. You can't afford to go backwards at this point.
And you have to worry about who you're dancing with right now as you're right on board with Jake Nichols in that Mode Motorsports number 24. If you're out front, if you're Ashton Crowder, you're not worried what Blake Reynolds is doing, even though they're battling hard for that position right there. The 21 of Garrett Lowe, the 83 of Bobby Zielinski going at it. You really have to be concerned with who you're racing with right now and who's around you. Run your own race. Speaking about running your own race, here comes Casey Kerwin to the inside. He wants to run it to the lead.
He wants to go all the way to the front, unable to clear that time to the inside. So Crowder, who had made most of his moves down on the inside of the racetrack, that time defending up on the outside. We'll see if he's going to be able to maintain this or not. He still has the 23 on the bumper. You still got Lowe, Zelensky, Gorlinski, Nichols, Overland, Reynolds, a whole host of drivers. They all feel like this is their opportunity to get the race win. Crowder, though, has got the target on his bumper for the moment. He leads at lap 89.
And Tim brings up, I think, an interesting point there, talking about the fact that Ashton Crowder has been so good on the bottom. And this is going to be interesting to watch here, Evan, because we've seen thus far today that through 1 and 2, you can really run the top line and be strong, but at 3 and 4, it's the bottom line that's been really, really good. As the 23 of Casey Kerwin makes a slight mistake, that's going to give Ashton a little bit of an advantage, but they might be able to just draft right back up to him. But I'm thinking about what happens on lap number 100. Where do you set yourself up? Do you try to have the advantage off of 2, or do you try to take the advantage coming off of 4, or do you just take what you're given and roll with it?
We've got 3 one-time winners leading this race. Crowder, Lowe, and Kerwin. All of these drivers have been victory lane one time in this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. It's a different story for the car who sits in the number 4 position, Bobby Zelensky, 5-time race winner. Of course, now all these drivers trying to pick up another one and to put it in the back pocket. There's a late sweeping move by Chris Overland to the bottom. He's not able to make that spot stick into position number 7. He'll have to hold, reset, and try it again. But I'll tell you what, Crowder's got some breathing room coming to 10 laps to go. His advantage sits at about 5 car lengths.
One of the biggest leads, except for that green flag pit stop strategy that we saw in the cycle that we saw there, but Crowder and even now Garrett Lowe trying to pull away from Bobby Zelensky and the rest of the running order in behind. For the most part, it's got tame. It's single file, a couple of side-by-side battles. Battle for position number 4 being one of them. Casey Kerwin trying to hold off the 24. And looking back there, the 16 of Chris Overland, also there, Jake Nichols battling for that spot as they work down into corner number 3. You ride on board with Jimmy Mullis now in that Coca-Cola Energy number 46 for Richmond Raceway Esports. He's trying to further his top 10 position, currently running in position number 9.
And the Coke Energy machine is following the Coca-Cola machine. Mullis and Reynolds back-to-back, 2 different teams, though, with Team Dillon Esports and Richmond Raceway Esports. Those are the cars who are close, but I think it's painstakingly just not enough. They can see the cars in the draft that are a part of the conversation. They just need a little bit extra, and I'm not sure the 8 laps that'll be left to go the next time by are be good enough. As you see, P9 with the 46 car right now. Garrett Lowe, though, has drafted up to the bumper of Ashton Crowder. The battle for the race lead is on, at least amongst a pair of 2. We'll see if Zelensky can close from 3rd. There's a lot of blockade going on for 4th as Nichols crosses Kerwin up to the inside, with those top 2 trying to keep it between them.
Yeah, those cars right now sitting 3rd on back, they're just in this weird place, Evan. They're just far enough back that they're really not getting much slipstream. They're still getting dirty air, though, and that's going to be making those cars not really rotate that well through the center of the corner. And, of course, on top of that, they're fighting with one another, so it's going to be a big, big ask for them to be able to slipstream up into these top 2, as they were actually pretty nice that time. But, of course, on top of that, Evan, we're at the window where the tires are starting to go away. So the 3-wide, 4-wide moments we were seeing through the lap 70s, lap 80s, we're not going to be seeing that unless we get another late race yellow to maybe stack them up for a green-white checker to the 21. Big run on the 77, and they're side by side for the lead.
Never say never. I'm not convinced that this one's going to be able to go the distance as scheduled until I see that white flag in the air. Garrett Lowe got the inside positioning, wasn't able to make it stick. The lap times for Bobby Zelensky in 3rd have been about even with the cars in front of him. Even is not good enough at the disadvantage that he sits at now. You're going to need about 1/10 of a second per lap just to get back and into the conversation. It is still Crowder atop Garrett Lowe. This time by, we'll see 6 laps to go in Fontana. Still the Burton Kligerman Toyota in front.
These top two absolutely love this battle right now. They are out and away from the rest of the field, and for the most part, they're at your top 10, top 15 or so. We got some single file racing. These couple of drivers side by side picking off positions, Evan, late in this race. That's great for the leaders. They want this thing to stay green, but we're not seeing that sense of urgency that we really saw off the restart. You saw it there with the shot down the back straightaway. Lots of single file racing, couple of drivers trying to pick up some positions, but as we come closer to 5 laps to go and get closer to that checkered flag, that sense of urgency ramps up. If I'm in 21st, I want 20th place. I want to pick up a couple of more positions before this thing is all said and done.
And that's why, just because nobody's racking on the camera up at the front of the field, doesn't mean we're safe. Here's Lowe again. He'll look to the inside now, off into turn number 1, and with a convincing dive, he's got it. Garrett Lowe clears Crowder for the race lead. The 77's going to give him a shot to the back bumper, but he can't get back around him. And how about Garrett Lowe, new race leader on lap number 96?
That looked like some dirt track late model stuff. That was a slide job to get to the race lead. The problem is that checked up not only himself, but Ashton Crowder as well. Look at how much closer the third place running number 83 of Bobby Zalenski is. That might get him in the window to really be able to feeling the positive effect of the draft. We come across start finish to take lap number 97. The 77 is going to look up the inside. Crowder wants to lead back. He is not going to commit nearly as hard, but he might just be able to get clear. Will he check up in front of the 21? Yes, he will. This is going to be another checkup as they fight down the back.
He tried to block to the inside, but the move was too swift from Lowe, so he crosses over. He's now back on his door, and side by side for the race lead we are again. If they stay like this, they're just opening a window for Bobby Zalenski, who sits in third, who is not done yet. But it is Lowe with the advantage by half a car length now. 97 laps down, 3 more laps to go, and there's the view from third.
Crowder was smart with his last move to go to the inside down into corner number 1. Had the move, had the momentum, try to pinch off Garrett Lowe right here and try to get that momentum off of turn number 2 to take that lead back, but Garrett Lowe will not go away. Back to single file racing. Can Garrett Lowe get a run, set up that number 77 of Crowder, and make what would be the winning move? Bobby Zalenski is closing in. This is going to be a 3-car battle, I think, before this thing is all said and done, if they continue to battle as hard as they are up in front. 2 laps to go this time. Garrett Lowe looks poised to try to make a move here.
He wants to make a move. He'll look to the outside. Now goes to the bottom as Crowder took away the outer line. Side by side again with Popsicle Sticks in the air. It is Lowe on the bottom, Crowder on the outside, and here comes Zalenski a little bit closer. I still don't think he's close enough, and it is the 77 with the lead, second to last time down the back straightaway.
3 and 4, the 21 has to set up a move here, even if it's not coming into 1, to just get closer, The 83 is Zalenski. He needs to be lurking as well and find any amount of speed he can, but Bobby not getting the run he needs. Here comes the 21 though. White flag waves at start finish. Here comes the 21, just right up to the back of the 77. He doesn't want to be side by side into 1 and 2 for the final time, Evan. He wants to look up for 3 and 4.
1 to go, presented by iRacing. Ashton Crowder pulls an advantage through turn number 2. Garrett Lowe's going to need to find a whole lot extra. His advantage is 4 car lengths, 3 car lengths. He closes the gap just a little bit with lap traffic in front. He'll drive it in hard in turn number 3, but it is not going to be enough. And for the second time, Ashton Crowder, a winner in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, does it tonight in Fontana.
His teammate was strong at the start of the night, Logan Clampett, and Ashton Crowder comes home and picks up that win for Burton Kligerman Esports. A great team effort from start to finish. Crowder goes home with the win. And Evan, I saw that number 21 of Garrett Lowe kind of have a 4-wheel slide going down into corner number 1 on that last lap. Kind of prevented that run. He got a run down into turn number 3, just not enough steam to make it work. Ashton Crowder comes home with the victory, and you better believe he's going to be happy.
Official margin of victory going to be 0.128 seconds in favor of Ashton Crowder. First win since that first career win in Darlington last year. But if you look at where that happened in the season, if you're a stat guy, Ashton Crowder, winner of 2 of the last 6 races, and a very good way for that team to kick off 2020, with Burton Kligerman having 2 very strong cars tonight, Randy, and with that 77 parking it at victory lane, as you can see all these drivers coming up and congratulating him.
Yeah, you mentioned the fact that that organization as a whole has been very, very strong today. Logan Clampett, like I said earlier, I think he may have been the favorite to win as we are getting to about the halfway point of this race, but Ashton Crowder able to take it home for that organization, and we're going to see some fun burnouts, I think, here in just a moment as he comes to start-finish.
He celebrates it on the front straightaway. This winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. Ashton Crowder, Coke Series winner in Fontana. So 2 different race winners to kick off the season, and what a hard-fought victory for the driver who started right in the thick of things in 17th position. We talked about how this racetrack has provided many different race winners over the years, Tim, and tonight we get another.
And we saw really 2 separate races. We saw the green flag run, the cycle of green flag pit stops. Couple of cautions at the end kind of changed some of those drivers near the front of the field. Guys like Bobby Zalenski were still up there. Casey Kerwin were still up there. But at the end of the day, it's Ashton Crowder who takes away the checkered flag. What a run as we take a look at the results.
Take a look at our full race results tonight from round number 2. Ashton Crowder gets the win in his Toyota-powered car over top of Garrett Lowe, who comes home in second. Bobby Zalenski unable to make up that distance in the end, but all 3 manufacturers and 3 different teams represented inside of the top 3. Jake Nichols and Chris Overland through your top 5. A lot of those cars staying consistent on this type of racetrack, but also just scanning through that, Randy, looks like 10 different teams represented in tonight's top 10.
Yeah, great to see that representation inside of the top 10 as we move back. Ray will follow the closest to making it a pair of VRS cars inside of the top 10 was Bobby Zalenski finishing 3rd, and a couple other notable names up in here as well. One driver, Ray going from 32nd to 11, Phil Diaz 35th up into 14th, and Jeremy Allen, he started caboose on the field 40th. He comes away with a great top 15 at the end of it.
And looking down at the third page here, Keegan Leahy ran so strong at the start of the night, finished in 22nd. Justin Bolton was up in the top 10, finishes in 24th. Colin Keister had a strong run, so did Graham Boland. Outside of the top 20, 26th and 27th place respectively. And last season's winner here, Eric Smith, comes home in 29th.
And then continued on down to the final slide. A lot of these were fast cars early on in the evening. The likes of Chris Sherburne, who started in 2nd position, Ryan Luza, who started in 3rd, caught up in some of the incidents, and they do not get the results that they wanted. 33 cars at the end of the night finish on the lead lap in this one. Should also note that there were 2 teammates inside of the top 10 with the Wood Brothers cars, but let's talk with tonight's race winner from Fontana. It is the driver of that number 77 Valvoline Toyota for Burton Kligerman Esports, Ashton Crowder, with his first win for 2020. Ashton, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, that was pretty cool, honestly. Garrett, I told Garrett over like our drivers thing, I think it was like 10 to go, I told him like don't make a move yet, like wait till 5 to go, because I figured we'd get caught by Bobby. Thankfully that didn't happen. But yeah, just everybody that builds these race cars, honestly, because like we weren't really that good last year. We got a win, it was mostly off of strategy, and just the cars overall were just really lacking. So we spent a lot of time during the winter and just tested our butts off and all that, and it's obviously showing because got up front, we had really good speed. It was a tad bit loose, but overall I think we held on really well, considering where we started on the restart. I think Garrett may have fell back a little bit more, but just everybody that builds these cars, Christian Challoner, Dave Siltman, Tanner Tallarico, Justin Listenby, just everybody, they're doing an amazing job, and I'm just so happy to get them a win.
And this one didn't have the fireworks at the end that we saw last year. That to the benefit of the driver of the 77 machine, Ashton Crowder, your winner in Fontana. We'll pass things on down along the line. Tim Terry chatted with our 2nd place finisher in this one. That goes to the 21 of Garrett Lowe.
And Garrett Lowe looked like he was going to have a run at the end of it, but Garrett coming down on that white flag lap down into turn number 1 looked like you had a little slide. Did that prevent you from really making that head of steam in turn number 4 to take away that victory. Talk us through those last couple laps.
Yeah, had a fantastic car tonight, man. I can't thank everybody at Wood Brothers Racing, Five Star Racing, and everybody over at the team for just, man, fantastic car. Just couldn't quite get there at the end. Just kind of got behind him and almost pushed him away more than catching him there with the draft. So it's something to look forward to the rest of the season. I think we showed a good standing for the rest of the season, I think, and hopefully we'll carry this momentum, good finish. So we'll go from there.
You mentioned momentum, 2 Wood Brothers Racing drivers in the top 5. How huge is that for your team?
Oh, it's just huge. I mean, we already had the little bet going on with Richmond Raceway this week. For those of you who hadn't seen that on Twitter, go check that out. We had a little bit of a bet between us of who had the higher average finish, had to wear the other's team gear. So we'll see how that turns out this week. So tune in later this week on the Wood Brothers accounts, or the Richmond accounts as well, and you'll see some cool content there.
Well, it looks like the Wood Brothers are going to come out on top of that. That's Garrett Lowe finishing in position number 2. And Randy, another constant near the front of the field. Bobby Zielinski finished in position number 3, but great run for him too.
Yeah, Bobby Zielinski, he was absolutely fantastic out there. I know that the bridesmaid is typically who finishes second every time, Tim, but that's 2 races back-to-back for Bobby finishing 3rd. I'm sure that's a little bit disappointing for him. As we actually have the 24 of Jake Nichols on hand. Jake, big run for you. You go from 33rd up to 4th. How is that number 24 Mode Media House car? That thing looked hooked up, near the last 20 or so laps.
Yeah, it was for sure. I wasn't too sure how that last run was going to go there. We had me and Chris Overland there were working together all race, and we had like 4 lap older tires than everyone, so I knew we'd be good short run, but I wasn't so sure mid to long run. And since we went green the whole time there, I was just holding on. And man, we had a great car. The Mode Motorsports and Mode Media House Ford Mustang, almost said Fusion, was really good. The Slipping Hill boys and ERG guys really did their part, especially with Mode and all their support. And man, I can't believe it. Starting that far back, it's so hard to make passes and go from the back to the front. And so we had to play a different strat. And we just tried to go with 1 pit stop there and got a caution at the perfect time. And man, our car was good. I'm glad we had some good teamwork. I got to run with Bobby there. Battling for the lead for 10 to 15 laps was an absolute blast. I can't thank these guys enough for a great race there.
Well, there he was. Jake Nichols comes home in 4th tonight, and standing by with the 3rd place finisher. We'll go back over to Tim Terry to talk to my pick, Bobby Zielinski.
And Bobby Zielinski comes home with position number 3. It's a great start to the season, Bobby. Another podium finish. I know you wanted a couple of positions more, but walk us through those last couple laps trying to get up there to the top 2.
My tires were done. I really used them up trying to keep the lead, which was kind of worth it because, yeah, I still got 3rd, and this is still earlier in the season. You need to get points, but damn, this is so close to that win again. I was plowing tight. What are you gonna do? But I always show up for California, so got to be happy about that.
A great finish for you, but we have to ask you, where's the wheel? Didn't you race with the wheel tonight?
It's over there. This is my desk. It's way better for camera. I have lights now, which I always had, but I remembered to turn them on this time because got to look a little better on the interview here. But yeah, wheels over there, the rig. So.
Too early to talk about points, but obviously 2 great finishes momentum-wise heading forward here. We got an extra week before we head into Homestead Miami Speedway. What's the thought process now after 2 races?
So it's weird going to Homestead already, but I don't know. This is great for the points, right? 2/3 in both with the bonus point and lap lead in both. But you want to try to win, being that close both times, but hats off to Garrett and Ashton. I don't know, I think it was more down the driver with me tearing up my right front and not being able to challenge those 2. But just got to thank everyone at Team VRS, Coanda, and Keegan and Chris, of course, because this definitely wouldn't have happened without them. And yeah, it sucks that they got caught up in a mess today because they deserve to be up right with me. So weird going Homestead, but we'll make it work, and I'm sure we'll have a good car, and let it rip.
And that's Bobby Zalenski having a great run here. And Evan, the Coca-Cola move of the race we're seeing here now, a great move at the end of this race too for Ashton Crowder to take the win.
In the pass for the race lead, unlike last year, and the win did not come at a final lap, but it came with a couple laps still to go in this one, with Crowder making the pass on lap number 98 as they tried to make that move, and you can see clearing down on the inside. He slides up in front. Garrett went for the crossover. He did establish inside positioning, but he was never able to get all the way back around that number 77 Toyota. So that move on lap number 97 threw it to 98 to get awfully close right there. Wasn't able to do so. That pass with 3 laps to go is our Coca-Cola move of the race, and that number 77 of Ashton Crowder used it to power himself to his first victory of 2020. And it was just alluded to there talking with Bobby, but we go racing at Homestead, Randy, in 3 weeks' time. It has been the season finale every single year since 2011, but this time it's round 3, and it'll be in 3 Tuesdays' time.
Yeah, a bit of a Tim fact for you already. First time this is going to be the 3rd race on the calendar in this championship, and it's really weird, to have the first 2 races both down in Florida. I love Homestead, though. I've always liked Homestead. It's very unique. I love the variable banking there. It just seems to be a track that generates good racing, so I'm very happy to be going there earlier in the season, and it's going to be a great show.
And Tim, we talk about how unique it is, but it is still an intermediate racetrack. And as you just heard the interview there with the race winner Ashton Crowder, even some of the names and teams that haven't swapped, they put in a ton of work over the offseason. That'll be our first good look as who's got what on the 1.5 mile racetracks, which do make up a bulk of the calendar.
Yeah, they're going to have a couple of weeks to really set themselves up for the Homestead Miami Speedway, but we talked about this being the start to the season. Evan, we're really going to start to get into the meat and potatoes as we move forward into Homestead Miami and the rest of this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series season.
It's 3 weeks off until the next time out, but that's it for us here tonight from Fontana. We'll catch you on Tuesday, March the 17th for round number 3 for the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. That race and every race of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series can be found right here on the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from SoCal, where Ashton Crowder is in victory lane.